Okay, I'm looking at another IELTS essay again, and I've got a mark at the end, so we'll look at that in a second. But let's look at the question. Living in a country where you have to speak a foreign language can cause serious social problems as well as practical problems. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Okay, so that's the question we've got to answer. We've got to say, do we agree or disagree that living in a country, living in a foreign country can cause serious social problems and practical problems? Okay, that's the actual question, because I don't think the student focused sharply enough on that question. Now, he doesn't have to do an IELTS exam, and that's why it doesn't really matter to him that that's the part which he didn't do so well on in this essay, task response. You know, I gave him the lowest mark for task response, and it's just because I don't think he actually answered this question, especially in the second paragraph. I think he started to answer a different question, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to stay focused on the question. Yeah. Now, secondly, you can say in which instead of the relative pronoun where. And in my opinion, it sounds more formal and more intelligent. And therefore, you know, I know this isn't the student, this is the question that he has found online. But I want to let you all know that instead of where, in which will often sound more formal. Yeah, and it might even get you more marks. You do get good marks for using relative clauses. And I think preposition and relative clause sounds good. Okay, so let's look at the answer. The ability to use language. Now, I did hesitate about adding a the, and that's why I've put it in brackets. Now, I still would recommend it, highly recommend it. It is true that some natives might miss out the before ability here, ability to use language, especially when they're speaking fast or perhaps in a newspaper headline. They usually drop articles. In emails, we often drop articles, text messages. And so, you know, I feel a certain amount of sympathy for the student's mistake here. Nonetheless, ability is usually a countable noun, and that means we must have some kind of article there before it, yeah? And it's very specific. What kind of ability? The ability to use language. So I would go with a the. The ability to use language is a very unique human skill, which distinguishes, yeah? This is singular ability, so it's got to be singular here. Ability to use language distinguishes us the most from other species on Earth, semicolon, excellent. Even the apes, comma, and I've got to put this comma in because it's a non-defining relative clause, and he's already put a second comma in for the end of the non-defining relative clause. Well, if you do that, you need one at the start as well. You can't have it just with a comma at one end, a non-defining relative clause. It needs commas before it and after it, okay? If it's a defining relative clause, then no commas on either side. Yeah, you don't use commas on either side. But if it's non-defining, and I think it makes a lot of sense that this is just extra information. It could be defining. It's one of those ones where you could choose defining or you could choose non-defining, you know, and it only slightly changes the meaning. But I think as extra information, yeah, we're not defining which apes, it's just extra information about the apes. That works well. So even the apes, which is plural, do not have such physiological capability that allows them, active, not passive, yeah, that allows them to develop fully fledged, that's very good collocation, fully fledged language skills. Unfortunately, he just put full fledged instead of fully fledged, and that is